Welcome to the Sex Harassment Training for California Employees Practicum. My name is Angeline Dow. This is for Golden Gate University's Employment Law class, Fall 2017. First, what is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment, by definition, is a form of sex discrimination that violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. What does that exactly mean? According to the U.S. EEOC, it is deemed as unwanted sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature when this conduct explicitly or implicitly affects an individual's employment, unreasonably interferes with an individual's work performance, or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. How do we know if situations are sexual harassment cases? There are two forms: quid pro quo and hostile environment. In the next couple slides, we will look deeper into what situations qualify within these two cases. Quid pro quo is a Latin phrase meaning something for something. In a sexual harassment situation, it is when the harasser requests sexual activity from the harassee in exchange for workplace benefits. The harasser is oftentimes a manager, supervisor, or individual with authority over the harassee. On this slide, we see several examples from Legal Dictionary as to situations that would classify as quid pro quo. Notice that the consequences could be negative to an employee, such as withholding benefits or threatening to fire the employee if he or she does not accept or cooperate, or it could also be positive by giving the employee a bonus, promotion, or special projects. In the example shown in the figure, the boss is telling the employee to either kiss him or she is fired. Quid pro quo is a situation that is easily classified compared to hostile environment, which we will go through in the next slide. Quid pro quo cases, as previously mentioned, tend to be easier identified and proven compared to hostile environment. Hostile environment cases are sexual harassment actions in which the harasser creates an abusive, offensive, or intimidating environment for the harassee. How can we be sure that those actions are sexual harassment cases? The two most common are when the actions are unwelcome or severe or pervasive. Unwelcome meaning that the harassee has made it known he or she does not accept the actions taken by the harasser. He or she has told the harasser or the HR department that they are not comfortable, and the actions continue. Severe or pervasive have several examples listed on the slide here. If the action is frequent, or if it is unreasonably interfering with the victim's work environment. In the next few slides, we will look at some examples of prohibited sexual harassment actions that will fall into either quid pro quo or hostile environment cases. Now that we know what two forms of sexual harassment cases there are, let's understand a bit more about some examples of prohibited sexual harassment actions. According to the Society of Human Resource Management, below are several actions that clearly constitute as sexual harassment cases. A couple of these were previously mentioned, such as unwanted sexual advances or offering an employment benefit in exchange for sexual favors. Also, threatening an employment detriment for the failure to engage in sexual activity. Oftentimes, individuals do not realize that actions such as visual conduct or verbal sexual advances, and in today's day and age, especially sending sexually related text messages, videos, or messages via social media, can all constitute as sexual harassment cases. Remember, if the harassee clearly does not want the actions brought onto him or her and has made it known that they are uncomfortable and the actions continue, it can be a sexual harassment case. Here we see several additional examples of prohibited sexual harassment actions. The one to take note of is verbal abuse concerning a person's characteristics. This oftentimes will fall under hostile work environment that is severe or pervasive. Again, if this action is happening frequently or if it is humiliating the harassee, they can file a claim. Next, we'll take a look at how often sexual harassment claims are filed. According to the EEOC Sexual Harassment Charges Statistics, as of 2010 up until 2016, there has consistently been over 12,000 charges alleging sex-based harassment that were filed with the EEOC. On this presentation chart, you will see that over 6,700 of those charges were alleging sexual harassment. Therefore, as you can see, sexual harassment cases are not small, and they do equate to large sums of money. 2016 alone was over $40 million. Next, we'll take a look at some specific California cases that had large price tags associated with them. This slide shows just how costly California verdicts and settlements can be. The information is brought by Brannigan Robertson of Robertson Law. The first one, back from March 2012, was worth $168 million. Next was Ralph's Grocery, back in 2002, at $30 million. As you can see, sexual harassment cases are not small and can go up to the millions, depending on the severity. Monetary cost is just one repercussion of having sexual harassment cases. A couple others include how the company and employees involved are perceived. In addition to that, it makes the workforce feel unsafe, causing attrition and turnover. There are many myths about what should constitute as sexual harassment cases. Several of those include that it can only happen between members of the opposite sex. Also, that the harassment requires the harasser to act with cruel intentions, and that it's okay to ignore situations until they are serious in nature. These are all untrue. Because sexual harassment is such a serious case, it needs to be reported as soon as it is noticed. As just mentioned, sexual harassment can happen to anybody, by anybody. It could be from the opposite sex, or it could be from individuals of the same sex. This table shows a sample that was done to indicate the amount of sexual harassment cases brought by individuals of opposite and same sex. Even though the numbers previously looked at were very high, there are still individuals who do not file complaints. Why is that? There are several reasons why individuals do not file these complaints. The first is their fear of retaliation. They are scared that if they do complain, there will be retaliation from their coworkers or from their employer. Next, they don't have a process or procedure as to who they should raise the complaint to. Many people think that it happens to everyone or that it's not a big deal. And still, many individuals are uneducated about what sexual harassment entails. Why do individuals not learn about sexual harassment? There are many reasons. They might not have the resources, or in some cases, they don't have the motivation to learn. As this chart indicates, the motivation to learn comes from two different directions. Some individuals have a pessimism about any sexual harassment change happening. That's due to their organizational tolerance for sexual harassment, and that sexual harassment is a myth. It doesn't happen. So individuals don't pay attention to the signs when it does happen. They need to be well educated about the subject in order to know how to fight against it and take action on it when needed. Many employees ask, how can sexual harassment be prevented, seeing that it happens so often? California took a step and created Bill number 2053, in which it requires all employers with 50 or more employees to provide at least 2 hours of training and education regarding sexual harassment to all supervisory employees. This law also requires that the training and education be enforced once every 2 years. This creates a refreshing course for any updates on the policies and to make sure that the supervisors are staying updated with any new rules or regulations. One of the ways to also prevent any sexual harassment cases would be to have a company policy against sexual harassment and to share it with the workforce. Conducting company-wide training or enforcing the completion of online modules to all new hires as well as current employees will also increase the amount of awareness and prevention. Other ways to prevent sexual harassment claims are by creating a safe environment where misconduct is not allowed under any circumstances and where employees feel safe to raise any issues they might see. Companies need to emphasize their commitment to eliminating sexual harassment acts from the workplace, and this happens through providing that confidentiality for complaints, providing prompt investigation into any situations that occur, having a no retaliation policy, and disciplining the harassers that are proven guilty. Leadership in companies also need to support prohibiting any of these sexual harassment acts. And the entire organization needs to be informed of policies. It is the company's responsibility to provide employees, especially individuals with any supervisory or leadership authority, with sexual harassment training. It is also the company's responsibility to ensure that it has a written sexual harassment policy that is distributed to all workforce and acknowledged by the individuals working in the organization. Leaders must lead by example. If employees see their leadership acting with sexual harassment attitudes, they will also feel that it is okay to do the same. It needs to be a company-wide policy not to allow these sexual harassment acts. It is the supervisor's responsibility to understand that their definition is not important. It is the harassee or the target's definition that determines whether the unwelcome behavior is sexual harassment. Supervisors must understand the true meaning of sexual harassment according to the EEOC guidelines and the company policy. They must pay attention to their workplace environment, be open to listening to employees and potential issues, and take an objective stance in any situation. They must enforce company policy and contact human resources as needed for any situations they may feel are sexual harassment. In summary, it's really important for everyone to understand what sexual harassment is. The two types of claims, such as quid pro quo and hostile environment, and what qualifies as those claims. In addition, the statistics from the EEOC are important as a background. Knowing who sexual harassment applies to, which is everyone, and it could happen to anyone by individuals of the same sex or opposite sex. Everyone must be informed of how sexual harassment can be prevented and what the responsibilities are of a company and supervisor in this prevention. Thank you for listening to the Sex Harassment Training for California Employees Practicum. If you would like more information, please take a look at the references on the next few slides.